The buses are running and the students are back in the classroom. School's in session in the Charleston School District. Coming up, we'll talk about the year ahead during an interview with Charleston School Superintendent Jim Littleford. Stay with us. At Issue starts now. Teachers and staff reported back to work Wednesday, and a day later, the students. The summer break is over and kids are back in the classroom for the start of the new school year. Joining us on this week's At Issue is Charleston School Superintendent Jim Littleford. Jim, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of At Issue. And boy, a busy week in the Charleston School District, but it's really been a busy summer because to get ready for a school year, there's a lot that needs to be done starting when school's out in May.
A lot of preparation has to take place that people don't see throughout the summer months. And typically they shouldn't see that because they're away and they're enjoying their vacations and just everything that goes with the summer. So we are glad to be back in session. I always get excited at this time of year. The juices start flowing, and it's just a neat thing to see all the staff back and then all the students. Staff came back on Wednesday. We started off with an all-staff institute day and greeted everybody there, then got everybody out into the buildings to work with their building principals and everybody out into the buildings. So yesterday our students were back in session for the first day, and it was a full day of attendance, and we're back and going at it.
Jim, what takes place over the summer? The last time that you visited us on At Issue, we talked a lot about security, and maybe there were some security things that were, I know that's continuing, but maybe there were some other things that were addressed over the summer. But what actually goes on in the district?
Well, as you well know, there's many different things that take place as we prepare for the school year. First thing is we're finishing the previous school year and we're taking care of the books, and we're going through audits, and we're looking at our fund balances and those types of things. Then July 1st, which is the beginning of our new fiscal year, we're gearing up for the new school year. There were a lot of things that took place over the summer. The first thing that you mentioned was security. That we had some things that took place. We'll have some things that will continue to take place in August and September, maybe even into October before we begin to look at some new things. If you've been to one of the schools, you'll notice that the front entrances look a little darker than they did before, and that's not because the lights are off. It's because we have a new 3M film that was placed on the front entrances, and that film is designed to keep people out of the building should the glass break, that type of thing. So we're thrilled to have that done. We have panic buttons now in all the buildings that go immediately to CCOM. Should we have a problem. We have updated cameras, monitors, buzz-in systems. We've begun that process. We're going to continue with that process probably into September. We also, probably in September and October, we just got proposals back on those, and that is the reconfiguring of Carl Sandburg and the Charleston Middle School front entrances. Those are for security purposes to be able to move people into the office areas before they go out into the school area. We are updating cameras at Jefferson and Mark Twain. Hopefully in early September that will be done as well. And then we did add a piece of software to the high school that syncs the bell system with the magnetic door locks. And we have those on about 6 of our doors as we have students that come and go in that building throughout the day. We have the ag shop building is obviously outside the scope of the main building. So we have to be able to open up the buildings. And of course we have an open lunch hour as well. So we have kids coming and going and faculty throughout the day. And that piece of software will allow us to open the doors at the right time. What we found out last year was that the bell system was a little bit different than the magnetic door lock system, and every couple of days we had to go back in there and readjust the time on everything to get those doors to open up properly. So, but we added a piece of software to that, and hopefully that's going to go much more smoothly, and then we'll begin to look at things for next year. You know, what do we want to do additionally security-wise? So, but first we're trying to finish up, and then we'll proceed from there.
What has the response been from students and staff and teachers and parents and guardians?
Everything that I have heard has been positive. I think the Newtown, Connecticut incident really shook people up. It did me, I know that, and I wanted to take a step back and look at what we were doing. Of course, we have an ad hoc committee group that involves some school board members and school staff and administrators. We'll continue to meet throughout the school year. I don't know what's next on the agenda, but I'm sure we'll have several things that will take place for next year.
Thursday was the first day of school.
It was.
And, you know, we talked before we started recording in here, and what a great day. It ended up being a good day for the students and for the faculty and for the staff, and relatively few problems. You know, there are some bumps in the road, and
Sure.
You'll probably talk about that, but all in all, a pretty good day.
It was a great day from everything that I'm aware of, and one of the first things that I'd like to talk about is the immunizations and physicals. The Tdap vaccine has been added for a lot of students throughout our school district, and a lot of students had to pick that up. Our nursing staff did a fabulous job of contacting parents in the spring, throughout the summer, at registration time, and between registration and the start of school. We had a few students that were excluded from school yesterday because they did not have their vaccinations or they didn't have their physicals, but very few, and we were thrilled with that. It wasn't like we had 200 students that were excluded, but we did have a handful of students, and hopefully they'll be back today. We did have some issues with our buses yesterday afternoon, and I think anybody who read the local media is aware of that, and obviously that's an issue everywhere, and it's an issue probably in most school districts, although getting a student home 2 hours late is inexcusable, and that should never take place, and we don't make excuses for that. I spoke with First Student Upper Administration this morning. They're going to have more help out here for them today, and hopefully we can make up for that today and everything will go smoothly. So I was actually out of the district yesterday. Most of the day I was at the Illinois State Board of Education in Springfield, came back, went to Carl Sandburg. The buses had all left, immediately went to the middle school and the high school. Things were fairly smooth over there for the first time in a long time, and Mr. Forrest, who's the manager at First Student, was directing traffic over there, and I was extremely pleased with that. So, but know that we had some people that didn't get home on time, some parents that were very worried about their children. I understand that. I've got 5 children of my own, and it's inexcusable to get kids home that late, and hopefully we'll take care of that today.
But on the back end, you said that you did speak to First Student.
Yes.
And, you know, there are some things that go on in the background
Sure.
in preparation for a first day of school, like you said. Talk about some of those things, just to maybe, and I realize that parents out there may not calm all of their fears,
Sure.
but, you know, maybe some of the things that the district is looking to alert parents if there's some late routes, but other things that play into a first day and why things like this can happen.
Well, and I do think we probably need to put on our website that hey, buses could run late or will run late the first week of school or so. That's almost a certainty because you have new bus drivers, constantly a turnover from a bus driving standpoint. You'll have substitute bus drivers. Obviously, you have new students on the buses, new drop-off points and that type of thing. Those things kind of all play in to the whole situation. That along with you've got schools that are trying to get students out on the bus. They're trying to figure out which students go on buses, which students don't go on buses, get those students down in a proper time. And it takes a couple of runs at that to make it just right. We know it wasn't perfect yesterday, but we're going to strive for perfection today.
Good. And what else can we expect this school year? You mentioned some changes in the immunization. We're now past the first day,
Right.
but there's probably also some rule changes that we need to look at this school year.
Well, the thing I'd really like to touch on is a new policy that we have, and it's the BYOT policy, the Bring Your Own Technology. We've been working hard with our technology department to provide wireless internet connection throughout our schools. We have the middle school done. We're close on the high school, and then we'll be going to Jefferson and down to Carl Sandburg. But what we're trying to do is we understand that as a school district, we can't keep up with technology. There is no way in the world to keep up with technology as fast as it's moving, particularly with the lack of finances that we have and we've had from the state of Illinois and so forth. So what we've gone to is a bring your own technology piece, and that allows teachers to say, okay, students, in this class, you can bring an iPad, you can bring a mini computer, you can bring a laptop computer, you can use your smartphone, and here's what we're going to use it for. And I'm thrilled with this. In fact, actually, I went out and bought a laptop computer for my 8th grade son, and yesterday he was checking with teachers, can I bring my laptop? I want to use it for this. The response that he got was just, I was amazed how many teachers said, absolutely, bring it in, you can utilize it. And so I'm thrilled about that. Of course, it's up to the teacher, but I'm thrilled with the fact that our teachers are utilizing technology, and I'm just thrilled with that. I'm not thrilled with what I had to pay for it, obviously, but I'm thrilled that my children and the children in this district are going to have an opportunity to bring in those things that they have and utilize them in some manner.
Do you find that more teachers, both in the middle school and the high school, are going in that technological direction?
Absolutely.
And are there concerns, with kids maybe doing things on devices that they shouldn't be doing, or going to websites that they shouldn't be doing and not focusing necessarily on studies?
Right. Absolutely. And that's why we say it's up to the teacher in that classroom to give permission for their students to bring it in for BYOT, to be able to use them in their classroom. They're going to have to be attentive. Teachers obviously will, as to what those students are using. We have some filters in place and so forth, and we've had to change some policies. It hasn't been that long ago that cell phones came out. Mm-hmm. I can remember when I got my first cell phone in the late 1990s and utilized it. Look how far we've come in 15 years. It is just simply amazing. I tell people all the time that we were going to go on a vacation about a year and a half ago, and we were going to go to Mexico. And I, of course, being the educator, I wanted to go to the Mayan ruins and that type of thing. And our children wanted to go snorkeling and deep sea diving and go to amusement parks and those types of things. So I said, all right, I'll make you a deal. If you guys will put a report together, take about 3 weeks. I'll give you 3 weeks to put it together about the Mayan ruins. And if you'll provide that report for me and I approve it, then we'll do some of the fun things that you want to do. I thought, great idea. Well, didn't realize how far behind I was, because about 3 minutes later, my son pulled up his smartphone and said, Dad, here's your report. And he'd gone online and he had discovered things about the Mayan ruins. They put that report together and provided it to me. And that was the first time that I realized that, you know what, I'm not practicing what I'm preaching. And I began to try and update myself as far as technology is concerned. So I think it's probably easier for younger teachers because they've grown up with this and they're more accustomed to the technology piece than the older staff. But everybody can learn it. Everybody can learn how to use a smartphone or a laptop computer and that type of thing. And of course, we have smart boards throughout the district in district classrooms that just connect you to the outside world. So yes, things are changing. We're encouraging that change. And we'll go from there. We'll use this as a trial run. And if we have problems, we'll try and address those problems and hopefully have our kids be more familiar with technology, more familiar with the world, and receive a better education.
To those students and families that may not be able to afford or to keep up with the technology, is that something that the district will assist with?
Yes, and we're trying to do that. We've had different individuals that have teachers, administrators that have applied for grants or used money through their building budgets to purchase maybe iPads or laptops or that type of thing, so that we have those things available for those students that don't have them.
We touched briefly on the security changes that are in progress, that have been ongoing, and will be launching into the fall. Any other rule changes that that maybe parents, students need to be aware of? Maybe not necessarily rules, but any procedural changes or maybe dress codes or anything of that nature that's new or changing or maybe expanded upon this school year?
Nothing of a major sort at all. We subscribe to the Illinois School Board Association as far as policies and procedures, administrative procedures and exhibits. As far as those types of things, not a big issue. Probably the one that stands out to me right now would be athletics and concussions. That has been a hot topic,
Yes,
as you well know, in the past 3 or 4 years. And we have some protocols in place to work with our students in concussions.
Can you talk about those?
Well, the biggest issue is everybody's going to have to deal with concussion issues from a school district perspective. You can't participate in football, basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, those types of things, and not be susceptible to contact with other students and the ground and those types of things. So you have to deal with that. The biggest piece that we've had to learn and adapt to, and that is when to bring those students back. And those students have to be approved by physicians, have to be approved by our training staff that we have, and we use a trainer. We utilize a trainer from Sarah Bush Lincoln, and so they have to be cleared before they come back to activities. So, and you know what? This is probably a long time coming. Probably should have been done 20 years ago, but the research wasn't there to show that there are issues with concussions and long sustained concussions. So that's the biggest issue there. If you'll notice, the State Board of Education has picked up on that. They've also indicated to school districts that you have to have catastrophic insurance coverage. And we've had that for several years in the Charleston school district because you never know when you have somebody. I mean, you take soccer, for instance. There's no pads in soccer. You can have head-to-head contact or head-to-ground contact or on the football field. Everybody's familiar with the contact that goes on there. And you can sustain some long-term injuries. And so the catastrophic insurance piece is something we've had in place for a long time, and I think that was a good thing. Sometimes legislature gets, I think, carried away as far as the mandates that we're responsible for, but we're certainly glad that we've addressed this for a long period of time.
Well, you're accessible.
I am. You know what?
Jim said before this interview, I'm wearing 2 cell phones.
And I apologize for that.
That's all right. We want people to know that you are accessible.
We are accessible to people. I'll put that right there. So,
perfect.
And I answered those phones several times throughout the day, and I must apologize. I thought I turned that off.
That's all right. That's all right. You mentioned the legislature, and I think maybe we should touch on funding and how the Charleston School District sits financially.
Right.
If you could talk about that for us.
We had a better year financially during fiscal year 13, the fiscal year that just ended on June 30th, than I anticipated. And part of the reason is we received some additional funds from the State Board of Education because of a tax windfall that came about throughout the state. And I think they received about $1 billion extra than what they thought they were going to. So we had a pretty good year. Were we bleeding? Yes, we're still bleeding. We have a tentative budget set for the fiscal year 14 year, the year that we're currently in. Are we bleeding again? Yes, we're bleeding. But we haven't hit that artery. We're not gushing. And we'd be fine if we were receiving all the general state aid that we're supposed to receive. And of course, they've prorated that at 89%. And that's something that started a couple of years ago. When you lose $700,000 to $800,000, that's not small change. Those are huge dollars, and so we try to weigh that with what's going to happen in the future. And of course, that leads to the pension issue. What's going to happen with the pensions. I think perhaps with the conference committee that the governor's put together, I can see in a couple of months that going to the floor of the House and the Senate and perhaps getting passed. I think it's actually going to happen. At least I hope so. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be taken care of. The longer this thing lingers out there, the more emphasis that is placed upon it. I think it holds back on our funding that we receive from the state because everybody's scared. Everybody's nervous about having available dollars for education. So.
I know, Jim, that you had a few other things that you wanted to make sure that parents and students and our community was aware of as we enter into the 2013-2014 school year.
I do, and I think last year we talked about NerdWallet, which is a website, and you know what? We checked that website out as best that we could. It looks like a legitimate website, and it ranked Charleston as the third best city in Illinois to raise a family. And part of the reason is the schools, and I'm very, very proud of that, and we'll continue to talk about that. We actually put that on our district website because I just think that's a neat thing, and that's the same thing that I saw when I came to Charleston 6 years ago. That this is a great place to live and raise kids. You're close to metropolitan areas such as Indianapolis, Chicago, St. Louis, easily within driving distance of the University of Illinois. You have Eastern sitting right here. What Doudna brings to us is simply amazing. I sat on a couple of boards here at Eastern, and the other day the philanthropy board gave us some information about Molly Ringwald coming to Eastern in a few months, and I'm kind of thrilled about that because I remember her
16
movies.
Candles.
Exactly. So those are the types of things that Charleston brings to the table that maybe some other schools or other cities don't. So we're absolutely thrilled about that. I can tell you we are looking and we're hoping this year, as every year, we have central registration for school at the high school. Next year, we're hoping to do that online. And that's our goal right now, is to do that online. And we certainly hope that can take place. And that's a huge change. And of course, those that couldn't do it online, we'd allow them to come to the schools, individual schools, and register. But I just think that's a
So parents can do it all online, and kids can anxiously await to see what teacher they get all at the click.
Wouldn't that be neat? That would be
neat.
a really neat thing. So we're excited about that. We had a group of supporters of the school district, and they called themselves the Champion Group, took it upon themselves to reconfigure the high school weight room. And we now call it the CHS Fitness Center. And they raised about $100,000 from the community and bought new weight equipment, put a new floor in, new paint job. It is really, really neat. And if anybody gets an opportunity to go by and take a look at that, it's a quality weight room. They still have some equipment still coming in that's been ordered, but just a really neat thing going on. Mr. Velardo, who runs our title services department, Title I and II, purchased electronic tablets for all of our teachers over the summer so that they can begin to track student growth, which is one of the ways that they're going to be evaluated in the future. So we're trying to get them ready for that and encouraging that. I'm going to be pushing for additional dual credit classes, if possible, if we can get that done through Lakeland College. I'm going to be pushing through for more advanced placement classes. Very interested in providing some additional gifted services for the future. So I'm excited about those initiatives as well. Lastly, we have a new math textbook series that we're being implemented this year in the elementary grades. So we're thrilled about that as well. So all in all, we've got some things going on. We're excited to be here, and our staff is, from what I could tell on Wednesday, they've had a wonderful summer and they're glad to be back and just thrilled to be here.
Jim, we've got a couple of minutes, so let's end this conversation on bus safety.
Yes.
You know, we touched on it, but I think it's important for the community to know that they're going to be out there running, and then any last words that you might have, again, to calm those fears of
Sure.
maybe some of the roadblocks that happened this week.
Right. I've done a couple of promotions in regard to bus safety on the radio, and always a concern. In fact, I told the school staff at our all-staff meeting on Wednesday, remember, it's just not you that's back. Our students are back. Beware, slow down, and be cognizant of people entering from the side and students out there and so forth. So, my message would be the same for everyone in the Charleston community as well. You've got Eastern kids coming back, so the roadways are just packed with vehicles and so forth. Remember, we've got kids that are walking home, and we want to keep them as safe as we possibly can. So just be aware of that out there. Parents, I totally understand your concerns with the bus issues and so forth, and agree with them. And we're going to do our best. to try and make up for that today and all week long. But please be aware, until we get into the new routine, it may be a common thing for students to be late. Now, hopefully not 2 hours, but 30 minutes late, that could be a possibility as we learn about new bus drivers and substitute drivers and new students on routes and new places to stop and so forth. So, but hopefully those kinks will be worked out very quickly, and we'll be back to normal.
And if a parent wanted to contact somebody to say, my son or daughter is a little bit later than normal, where do they need to address that
Absolutely.
phone call?
They can call First Student and understand that First Student's getting a lot of phone calls right now, so they may have to call back several times. They can try and call the schools, the individual schools. They can contact me individually. My school phone number is 549-3332, and I carry that cell phone with me almost all the time. Except when I'm recharging the battery. So, and as you could see earlier,
as we heard earlier,
I get phone calls. So,
yes.
Once again, that number is 549-3332.
All right, very accessible, Jim. And we thank you for joining us for this edition of At Issue, and we can only say have a great school year.
We hope so. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And if there's a topic you'd like discussed here on At Issue, be sure to email us at weiu@weiu.net. For At Issue, I'm your host, Kelly Runyon. Thanks for joining us.